Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Ling, and I'm the Membership Director at CalNonprofits. This is CalNonprofits 101, how to make the most of your membership. We have a lot of information to share with you today about CalNonprofits, our work, and what membership brings to you. Let's get started. I will introduce our CEO, Jeff Cream, to share more about our work. Take it away, Jeff.
Great, thanks, Lynn. And thank you all so much for spending some time with us here. This will be densely packed with all kinds of information about what we do and how we do it. So we're delighted you're here. We're going to talk to you a little bit about what CalNonprofits is, where we came from, and the various things that we do with our mission. And then I'm going to hand it back to Lynn, and she'll talk more about the membership benefits side of the work. So there's a lot happening. Obviously, we're in a really tough environment, and associations of all kinds are really valuable right now. So we're happy that you're here checking out what this might mean for you to join up with CalNonprofits, or for those of you that are already members, a little bit more about what we're doing for you. So here's a real quick overview for everybody. We do essentially three things, and right now policy and advocacy work is probably the headline that most folks are aware of. We do this on behalf of the broader nonprofit sector, and we're primarily focused on Sacramento, but we work across all layers of government and policy. So we work with folks on local, that can be city and county and other regional work. We spend a lot of our time with Sacramento, with our state government, and then of course we're in partnership with the National Council of Nonprofits, independent sector, and others, and we do some work as well at the federal level. But all of this work we'll describe in a moment here, and I'll get into a little bit of the weeds of what we're pushing for right now when it comes to our policy work. For our education, we'll give you some examples. Many of you know us from our webinars, and that is at the core at this point in this Zoom world in which we all inhabit now. The core of our education work are fairly regular, 2 to 3 times a month Zoom tutorials. They're often decoding policy and talking about what it means for all of us on the ground here in the field, in our communities, in the nonprofit sector. We also will take on big issues and sometimes do series if there are things that people are asking us for. So this is a pretty responsive, I should say, a very responsive part of our work. So we listen closely to what our members and colleagues and allies are asking for and try to do that. We also do an increasing number back in the field in person. Like this week, for example, I'm spending most of my week on the road meeting with folks at their conferences, doing sessions, speaking with colleagues on panels and such. So we try to keep our work current out there and work alongside allies and partners in the field. And then finally, data and research. This is something that I'm sure if you're on this webinar right now, you know that sometimes data can be very difficult, good data to find on the nonprofit sector. You may find 2 or 3 sources that don't necessarily agree with each other. So when we do find good data, we push it out and try to share it to everyone. And we also do our own original work when we see there's a need, a gap we can fill, and something we can serve. And the biggest piece of that is Causes Count, which we're in the midst of updating right now, so we'll talk about that. So that's an overview of how we work. We are a membership organization. Some of what we do, we provide free to the broader community, but then for members, there's additional access to benefits. And we also believe that it's really just valuable to have an alliance when we can say in front of a legislator or the governor's office or the attorney general that we're speaking on behalf of thousands of nonprofit leaders and allies across the state. So let's go to the next slide, Lynn, and I'll talk a little bit more about the details. So right now, this is our small but mighty core team, and we do have others. We have a subsidiary that you may be aware of, and Lynn will talk about, CalNonprofits Insurance Services. So that's actually a larger subsidiary business of ours. But this is the core team of CalNonprofits. And you can see here some folks that you may have already known or interacted with and what they do. And we are continually sort of changing our shape and size and slowly growing right now. So I would anticipate by early next year, we'd be a 10 to 12 person staff at the core level. Let's go to the next slide. So these are the policy priorities that we have put together over the years. These were established over a decade ago, have shifted a little bit, but essentially when we look at public policy and advocacy work, we're always looking through the lens of, is it in the service of these 6 areas, in which case that's something we may get involved with. First of all, public investment in our communities. We're always advocating that those dollars that come from our tax base come back into our communities, and we try to weigh in on those priorities. We're very clear on what we think the communities that we serve need, and we listen very closely to what leaders across the state are saying about how those investments should look. We are right now, in particular, very involved with the relationship with government. So as government has continued to lean more heavily on nonprofits to help execute our joint missions and our priorities, we want to make sure that those relationships are strong, the government is treating nonprofits fairly, justly, and equitably, and that they can improve the way in which grants, contracts, and things like that work with nonprofits. So you'll hear more about that. Nonprofit workforce. I don't have to tell probably anyone here that this is a growing concern about the sustainability of the workforce. It's long been a challenge. It certainly was highlighted during the COVID pandemic. And now in the current era, we want to make sure that we can do whatever's possible to help us sustain our workforce. Civic engagement, always out there. Some of you may remember we did a nonprofit vote or vote with your mission campaign probably starting about 7-8 years ago. And every year, whenever we have an election season, we want to make sure that nonprofits are getting out there with their missions and encouraging their members, their constituents, their allies to engage in whatever the public process is. We also do a lot of trainings around this and really have to bust a lot of myths. Many people in the nonprofit sector are incorrectly believe that we can't be quote unquote political. And in fact, that line is partisanship. So we do not, as nonprofit 501c3 public charities, ever weigh in for or against candidates or parties. But that aside, that's really the firewall. Everything else around lobbying with respect to budgets and values and priorities, that is absolutely what we should be doing. And so we're often making that case and helping people find resources to do it well. We have a lot around ensuring independence and accountability for the nonprofit sector. We, as you know, are regulated by multiple branches of government. So we are absolutely fans of transparency, good governance, but we also want to make sure that those regulators are clear with us and don't add unreasonable barriers to what they ask of the nonprofit sector. And then finally, just protecting and defending the broader values of what nonprofits are and what we all do in our communities, whether we're a tiny all-volunteer organization or even a massive all-volunteer organization, or some of the largest institutions in our communities. All right, let's go to the next slide here. So let's talk a little bit about the priorities right now for our legislative session. As you may know, the California legislature just wrapped up its session, and this is the first year of a new two-year session as it works in California. And so here are our priority bills. The first two actually are the ones that we have been working on the longest. These are bills that have been previously passed in different forms and in fact unanimously by the legislature, cross-partisan support, and then vetoed by Governor Newsom. So what we're doing is bringing them back. We again got them through both houses of the legislature unanimously, and the authors have agreed to make these two-year bills, so they will be coming back in the next year of this session when we get to early 2026, and that will get us some time to do all we can to ensure that we get the governor's signature. And these are really basic things. It's hard to argue against them, and we believe we are in the right spot for these. The first is Assemblymember Hart's bill, AB 1039, and that is really about advance payments. Some of you may remember that we were successful, again, with Assemblymember Hart's authorship of getting advance payments enabled 2 years ago, and that was signed by the governor. But relatively little progress was made with agencies adding advance payment to the list of possibilities when they're granting or contracting to nonprofits. So this is the next step in that. It would actually require any new grant and contract opportunities to include advance pay. And the reason for this is simple. We are often, as nonprofits, put in the position of floating debt for the state, which we all, I think, are very clear is not right. And that happens when essentially we agree to perform some work with the state's support, but the dollars don't come for many, many months and sometimes over a year. So we should not be in that position if we're going to be doing work in partnership with government, and we are partners to government. Second, AB 880. This is a bill that, again, was actually vetoed twice in the past, and it's a combination of two big issues. One is timely payment for nonprofits. If you have government contracts in this call, you know that sometimes it is a challenge to get paid on time. Believe it or not, there's an act that's over a dozen years old called the Prompt Payment Act in California, and sort of inexplicably it exempts nonprofits. So if you're a for-profit contractor with the state of California and you're not paid on time, there's actually a wall of shame, if you will, a list of what agency neglected to pay on time, and there are penalties for that. If you are a nonprofit, there are neither. And so we think that omission when that act was passed is absolutely an error and needs to be corrected. So that's one half of the bill. The other half is indirect costs. And of course, this is a generations-long struggle for nonprofits to make sure that organizations are paid not only on time, but fairly for the amount of work it takes. We often are put in a position to do sort of a race to the bottom and do things the cheapest way possible, and that is not good for us. It is certainly not good for our partners, government or funders. And so what we're saying here is let's set at least a reasonable floor that folks can work with. So these two are things to keep an eye on. The third bill here, I won't say much about. It was a good inclusive bill with nonprofits until the last moments of the legislature and the Appropriations Committee. The nonprofit piece was stripped out, so we would not be in fact qualified. We have therefore removed our support for it while we're encouraging the author to make this a 2-year bill. It may not happen. It may just go straight to the governor's desk at this point, in which case that'll be too bad, but we will again try that things like this, which would essentially be a recovery fund, an additional resource in state that we would like to have nonprofits who are always looked to for disaster recovery to be eligible for. So those are some core bills for us. We can look at the next slide. There's a couple more. I won't spend as much time. This was these are 2 Senate bills, 324 from Senator Menjivar. And this is really one that we lost it this year, but we are trying our best to ensure that as we transform Medi-Cal into CalAIM, which has been an ongoing project of the governors and the legislatures, that nonprofits in state, in community that are already doing health-related work like this are the first in line to have these contracts and partnerships with government. So we're going to keep pushing on that. And then SB 339, this is actually one that is now passed off the Senate floor. It's a labor bill that would create more barriers for nonprofits, but it got, because of the advocacy of CalNonprofits and our networks, it got, I should say, less and less bad as it went along. So at this point, it would be more of a nuisance bill. It is on the governor's desk. We'll see what happens with it. But that's the last one. And so we also work a lot with Attorney General's office. We're very active right now in trying to get that registry, which we've all dealt with for many years, updated. They're in the process of doing that. And of course, plenty of other issues. And with the federal landscape, there's lots to do without a doubt. So let's go to the next slide. One of the more interesting things we're trying in California is this bill. It is Bill 1318. It was passed by an overwhelming majority and has gone to the governor's desk. And this is one by Assemblymember Bonta. And the idea here is that if the federal government were to follow through on its many threats to pull 501c3 status from nonprofits because of political targeting or any of the other things happening right now coming from the administration, the federal government, that California would commit to protecting those nonprofits and treating them as nonprofits regardless of what the federal government does. And of course, California has the power to do a lot of this, all states do, but given our size, there's a lot of potential protection for the nonprofit sector in state, even with a hostile federal government pulling funding and threatening nonprofits. So we're trying to push back in creative ways, and this is one of those ways, and we'll keep folks updated on what happens here. Let's go to the next slide. This is some of the more positive outcomes of our work together. Going back to 2017, we actually got, at the time, Speaker Anthony Rendon, Silver Lake was behind this notion of a nonprofit select committee. We have been pushing for this for a number of years. Assembly Speaker said yes. Speaker Rendon said I can support it, but we don't have essentially dollars or time or infrastructure, so if you'll organize it, we'll support it. So that's what we did. And working alongside Assemblymember Limon at the time, she founded as the first chair of the Senate or the Assembly Select Committee in 2017. When she was elected to the Senate 4 years later, she established the same in the Senate side, and then Assemblymember Greg Hart stepped in to chair more recently on the Assembly side. Assemblymember Rivas also was there briefly in that seat. So we now have 2 very well-established select committees on the nonprofit sector. We do hearings once or twice a year. These are largely platforms for members who are interested in the nonprofit sector to hear more about the things that concern us collectively as a sector, and we help to program those hearings so that legislators hear what's really needed from the sector and on our minds. And our most recent one was this past August, so barely a month ago. And we focused a lot on the things, everything from disaster relief to better relationships with government, and looking at the ways that the legislature could help improve these things. And there have been some real wins that came out of this. The grants.gov portal, where you can see what California is offering in the way of grants and contracts to the nonprofit sector. That actually arose out of one of these hearings, and it was a bill that was later carried by, at the time, Assemblymember Limon, who of course now is in the Senate, and as many of you know, will actually be the president of the Senate pro tempore, beginning next month. Actually, I think early November is the new date that she'll be taking that. That will be very powerful for us because we'll have one of our strongest ever allies leading the Senate in the state of California. So we're looking forward to working alongside her there as well. Let's go to the next slide. So with respect to educational opportunities, I mentioned that we do these several times a month, and you can see here some of the things that are coming right up. And we have building healthier community strategies for empowering CBOs. This is very much related to that coalition of groups that put together the CalAIM bill, which unfortunately did not make it to the governor's desk, but it is continuing to talk about how we include and really put nonprofit providers in the lead on these and community health work. We have one of our most popular, Elevating HR with Mineral. Mineral is one of the benefits you have access to, and Lynn will tell you more about that, coming up September 23rd. And then the next day, we have an update on what's happening with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness and SAVE. What we are doing there is a long-standing program of ours going back almost 15 years. We call it the Nonprofit Student Debt Project, and it has long focused on the challenge of young and actually not so young nonprofit leaders coming into the sector with student debt and how that impacts our sector. So we're very active on that. You can see other things here, everything from the Johnson Amendment, which is that firewall on partisanship. We have some peer learning programs that we're experimenting with, and we're talking a lot right now about how to navigate the pressures and the attacks coming from the administration and the federal government. So there's a lot there. Let's go to the next slide. Research and data, I mentioned we do a lot. These are snapshots of different things that we have done in the past. The good news is that our sort of primary report, the new causes count, is coming in late this year. It'll probably be released in full in early 2026. This was something we started a decade ago. Did an update in 2019. That's the snapshot you see there. It's still available on our website if you'd like it. It's free. You can download it. It's about a 75-page report looking at the economic power of the nonprofit sector and how it relates to our state. So people often know us as nice people doing good things, helping community, upholding values, and that is all true. But of course, the nonprofits people often forget are a massive part of our state's economies and our community's economies. So not only should we claim that power when we're talking to legislators, we have our missions, we have our values, but we also are a major employer, we're a major economic sector, and we believe that all of that should be brought to bear as we try to shape a fairer, better, more just set of communities and the state of California itself. So let's go to the next one. So this is a part of that survey. So this is my pitch for you today. We are doing, to add to the publicly available data, which we are currently organizing and crunching and assessing and getting ready to present into the new causes count, nonprofit worker survey. This is some data that we do not have and we need it. Particularly what is happening. We made it very simple and straightforward, but we need to hear from workers in the sector. So this is not for CEOs and executive directors so much. We get that data from other sources, and we have some decent data there. It's really hard to find data on the rest of the workforce, which is, of course, the majority of the workforce in the nonprofit sector. So frontline workers, whether you're doing service delivery work or administrative work, or whether you're doing fund development work, whatever it may be, programmatic work, we really need to hear from you. We're doing this all month in September. We pushed this out a couple of weeks ago. This is part of our research partnership with the Nonprofit Institute at the University of San Diego. They are our nonprofit research partners for Causes Count, and actually have been since the very first one a decade ago. So our pitch here is please, please, please take 20 minutes or so, if you would, and pass this around through your organization. We want to hear from as many people as we can. Again, primarily not the executives, but everybody else in the organization, so that we can paint a broader picture of what is happening in the nonprofit sector. So there's the pitch for today. At least one pitch. Let's go to the next one. All right, so here's some other just good, fun, positive things that we do that have a real impact on our political landscape as well. California Nonprofits Day started a decade ago. This was another piece of our building our policy infrastructure. We realized that relationships, of course, and everyone knows this, at least instinctively, are key to any engagement around policy. So starting a decade ago, we asked every elected member of the state legislature, assembly, and senate to simply recognize a nonprofit in their district. When we started, there were 58 the first year. 58 senators and assembly members took us up on this. 10 years on, and that was this year in May, we had our 10th annual, and we had 118 out of the 119 sitting legislators. I won't tell you who the one is, but there was one open seat, so nearly the entire legislature participated with us this year. A fabulous luncheon back in May 21st, 400 people out on the Capitol Mall, and we do this again every year. We'll do it again in 2026, even have our date already set up. This is invite only. So this is what happens is we ask every legislator to simply recognize a nonprofit. So this is about building connections, about lifting up nonprofits, about building linkages with the elected members of our Assembly and Senate. And so if you haven't been recognized by your assembly member or senator, there's nothing wrong with dropping a hint here or there and reminding them that Nonprofits Day is coming, and they could choose to recognize you in your work. So that's for next year as well. The other big gathering that we do every year is our in-person conference. There is an annual conference in LA, and we have done this for a number of years. We were doing it every other year before COVID, and then we went and we added to some, I'd say, experiments through the COVID era of trying this remotely. We went back in person last year, and it was a wonderful experience. People really were hungry for it. So we went ahead and got everyone together, and we sold it out. And we're about to sell out this year's actually as well. So we will be at the California Endowment on November 5th this year. So if you're interested, please do register, and you can find all the information on our website. It's a really wonderful packed day for all us policy wonks. And if you're interested in the policy piece of the work, it's our annual policy conference, and we will do this again the 5th of November this year in 2025. So that is the biggest other event that we do in person. And then, of course, as I said, we travel around the state and offer other opportunities. If you want to get more in touch with us, those are the ways. We always offer opportunities for information and just updates, what's happening, event reminders, you name it. We do a monthly newsletter, and we usually do at least 1 or 2 calls to action and other updates throughout the rest of the year. And then we always have our website being updated. We actually updated our entire website last April, and we were very happy with it. So we hope that you are too. Lots of resources there. We're constantly refreshing it and updating it, and that's something that we're always open to feedback on. So there is if you haven't looked at it in a year and a half, you'll recognize the new website, new guidelines. There's a great new guide that we've actually released this year for legislators. So this is something that we do. This was actually an idea that came out last fall. The idea is simply to have a guide to the entire legislature. So it is free, it is downloadable, and what we are trying to do is give you a brief bio on all 120 members of the legislature. Some of you know there are 40 senators, 80 assembly members, and each of their particular connections to the nonprofit sector. So that is something that everyone can access, and we are always open to. So if you might have an ally that you know in your district, but you may not realize that there's someone elsewhere in the state, it's really a good sort of guidebook to how the legislature works.
I'm going to start with our most popular member benefit, which is CalNonprofit Insurance Services. This is our insurance subsidiary that was created the same time that CalNonprofits was founded, and it was created to serve nonprofits. Up to date, they have served more than 2,000 nonprofit clients. Their staff have been working with nonprofits, and they really understand nonprofits' needs. So if you are happy with your broker, that's wonderful. If not, feel free to reach out to them. This is a list of services that they provide. They can help review your policy for free and let you know if you have any gap in your coverage, or give you a free quote. The second most popular one, Jeff kind of mentioned the webinar that we're going to have next week. Mineral is an HR tool that gives you access to pretty much anything that can support you with HR needs. It gives you access to their smart employee handbook, where you can just put in your information. They will notify you anytime there are changes in law and regulations, and you can just go back in and update it. It also has an HR compliance library where you can access their assessment tool, templates. They have more than 130 courses that you can assign to your staff team. That can be part of the training or your professional development. You can track and assign the training at any time. The thing that our members like the most is access to their mineral expert. So basically, they have HR expert that you can reach out to. You can call their line or send them a document, and they would help review it. I've seen our members save thousands of dollars using mineral. Other HR-related member benefits. We do have a job board, and as a member, you can save 50% off on all of the job posting. We also partner with Intel Corp and Coas Global to offer you with affordable background check services. You can check both sides and see what services that fit the most with your name. Board governance, you can save 15% on the board support program offered by BoardSource. This tool gives you access to educational resources, expert advice, webinars, and any other governance tools. They also offer a special price on their board self-assessment. Financial services, CalNonprofits member have access to Profit and Credit Union, Dharma Merchant Services, where you can save processing fee if you process more than $2,000 each month. Form 990 online, this is where you can file your 990 form. An organization with more than $100,000 budget will receive a 25% discount, and their service is free for organization with less than $100,000 budget. Purchasing Point, this is another favorite of CalNonprofits member. With Purchasing Point, you have access to more than 200 vendors. What I always suggest to our members is that you can download the list and see which one that you are using. Maybe you will probably find them there. We have a member that have saved thousands of dollars using FedEx when they ship their books to other organizations. They also provide employee discount that you can share with your team. And this will be discount on car rental, stable, prescription drugs. Communication and techniques. If you want to promote your services or if you have any campaign that you want to post on buses, train stations, feel free to reach out to Grid Color. They offer as much as 400 discount on their services. All the photos that you are seeing here are part of our members' campaign in the past. Little Green Light, this is a fundraising and donor management tool that as a member, you can save $200. We also partner with Pocket Security. As a member, you receive 15% off on their cybersecurity education and services. Elevation, it's a platform where you can upgrade your website. If you don't have one yet, you can create one with them. And they offer a matching grant and 10% off for CalNonprofits member. Nonprofit staff support. With Honeybee, you can give your workforce access to no-cost rainy day funds. Savvy help student loan borrowers navigate the federal forgiveness programs. They would help you find the program that work for you to save money. They do have a free version that you can use. And if you want more support, like one-on-one support, they also have an upgraded, and CalNonprofits members receive discount on those upgrades. Highway is a tool for employers if you want to offer tax-free student loan or tuition benefits to your employees, and CalNonprofits member will save $500 when you use this vendor. At the discounts, we have a partnership with California Academy of Science that you can save $5 on each ticket. We also have discount on everyday office needs with Office Depot. Now it's called ODP. This is very similar to Stable. What I usually do is that I would compare both sides, and if you order a lot, that might help you save a lot too. Nonprofit Quarterly, you can save $10 on their subscription. And last but not least, this is our most recent new member benefit, Active and Fit Direct, which gives you an option of paying just $28 for gym membership. We receive a lot of requests from members to have member networking events, and we hear you, and that's why we are piloting 2 member networking opportunities. One is for small volunteer-led nonprofits, and the other one is for advocacy organization with budget less than $1 million. We're just piloting this too, but if you have any suggestion or any other networking opportunity, we will be happy to facilitate that. And that is information about CalNonprofits, our work, and what membership brings to you. We would love to hear from you. I see that we have a few questions, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can answer your questions. I see one, how does Mineral compare with a service like Gusto? I have not used Gusto, so I can't really answer this question, but I'm happy to share a list of all the services that Mineral offer to you. And you can check and compare with Gusto that you are using. The other thing is that Mineral comes with your membership for free, so you don't have to pay any other fee to use Mineral. I know that for some other organization, you might need to purchase this subscription somewhere from $60 to $100 a month, but this one is totally free for nonprofits members. If multiple board members need access to CalNonprofits, do you just end up using one email login? That is a great question. Thank you so much for asking. We switched to a new system that you can have as many board members, as many volunteers, as many employees that you want on the member portal. You each gonna have your own login and you can sign up to all events, access the benefits. Great question. Can we get an email list of what resources are available? Yes, I will include that in the email as well. Do you have resources for nonprofit to set up their own QSEHRA program, or would that require the use of CalNonprofits insurance brokers?
Yeah, what we'll do for any insurance related questions, so the team at CalNonprofits Insurance Services is actually a staff of 70 folks over there with some really deep experience. So it looks like this coming from the Pacific Beach Coalition, happy to connect you directly with them and they can give you a better answer than we could directly.
Do we have access to CalNonprofits insurance for free, or we need a broker? CalNonprofits Insurance Services, they are a broker. So they would connect you, they would find all the program insurance that can be a good fit for you and help you choose. But they are not a provider and cannot set the price. And no, there are no fee for you to use CalNonprofit Insurance Services.
That's part of the design, is to make sure it's accessible and there's no additional fees on top.
Would you advise hiring a fundraising coordinator or manager? We have minimal funds and I'm exhausted trying to do it all by myself. Thanks.
Yeah, as a recovering fundraiser myself, actually, no, there's no recovery from fundraising. I would say this, we can talk offline in greater detail. You know, there are pros and cons to paying someone. The easiest folks to find often are contract grant writers. But if you're really looking to a broad base, long-standing, sustainable fundraising, it's a little more complicated. So that's certainly one option, and there are people in almost every community that do this, but the sort of return on investment question is what you have to look at depending on what kind of fundraising you're interested in. This will let me maybe riff just briefly on a couple things. So things to know about the sector, the majority of income actually, well, it depends on the year. So let's say roughly 50% is actually earned income in the nonprofit sector, but that's highly unevenly distributed. So certain sectors, subsectors have almost all earned income, some have none. Government grants and contracts make up about a third of all revenue in the nonprofit sector, and then the rest is philanthropy. So it's actually the smallest slice, but for smaller organizations, it's usually the majority, and that includes individual philanthropy, so people giving personally, which is actually the largest, and then foundations and sort of institutional givers is the smaller piece of that. So you'd be welcome to reach out. I'm happy to talk to you offline and see if I can help.
Great, thank you, Jeff. What is the date for 2026 Nonprofits Day?
We're back in May. It'll be the 20th, I believe, Lynn, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And we'll share more information about this when it's closer to the date. So if you have not subscribed to CalNonprofits, please do so that you can receive this update. By insurance services, do you mean all type of policy needed by a nonprofit or just certain insurance types?
Primarily benefits. So it's, medical, dental, the sort of the whole range of possible benefits, and then liability insurance. Those are the two primary needs they serve. What they can do if there's an area of insurance that you need that they don't have, they're not maybe licensed for, they do have a broad referral service, so they can tell you who to talk to. But yeah, the majority of our business is liability and benefits.
Would you able to host a webinar on fundraising?
We don't do a lot on broad fundraising. We can, and we have done that. So depending on what your needs are, what we often do, there's some wonderful other resources around for fundraising in general. Of course, Association of Fundraising Professionals. There's a dozen or so AFP chapters around the state of California. They often do a lot of educating there. There are other independent organizations, and depending on what region of the state you're in, there are another 13, 14 regional nonprofit support organizations, or MSOs as they sometimes get called, and they do a lot of fundraising, seminars, webinars, luncheons, trainings. So what we typically do is if something's already happening, we'll refer you to it, and if there's a gap, then we will certainly step in to help fill it. So yeah, let us know where you're looking, and we can probably be helpful for you.
Thank you. The last one with the Olympics and World Cup coming into LA, is there a chance to do a big fundraiser with all nonprofits while attendees from all over the world are there? Wow, that sounds like a great idea. Seems like Count on Profits would chat with Mayor Bass and others to put something together.
That's a big idea, Mac.
Yeah.
The folks at CNM are our closest partners there. So Center for Nonprofit Management out of Los Angeles, they're doing a lot of organizing of the broader sector in the greater LA area. There's also the Nonprofit Partnership based out of Long Beach, which we work closely with. So I've had a few conversations about the various ideas around the Olympics coming to LA with both of the leadership of those organizations, and I'd say that would be the place I would start. But certainly happy to have that conversation with our partners down there.
Great, thank you. That was a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we answered all the questions. So here is our contact information. If you have any questions after this meeting, please feel free to send an email to us. There is Jeff's email address on here, or if you just have general questions, feel free to send it to membership@countonprofits.org, and we'll help you direct it to the right staff. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you take the time to spend with us. Count on Profits, we get stronger with our members. So we hope to get your support. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you all.